Goedemiddag. I could speak Dutch, but I guess it's not enough for this conversation. Maar mijn kinderen zijn half Nederlanders. So, ik praat een beetje. I lived in Utrecht 25 years ago, but I'm not going to tell you my experiences in the Netherlands. I'm going to talk to you about Barcelona, which is my hometown, where I've been a neighbor all my life, also activist, an active neighbor, where I've been a mobility consultant for many years, where I've been a public servant, and I'm still there in Barcelona metropolitan area, and where I was also a politician for a while, just in one term, and that was enough. And today we're going to talk about, let's see if this works for me. Yeah. We're going to talk about Superblocks, but also about different strategies of transforming the city of Barcelona that we had in the last years. Who of you have ever been in Barcelona? Please, hands. Ooh! Okay, so around 60–70% of the audience. So probably many of these images, they are familiar for you, and if not, please come back and I will show you around. Okay. First of all, a short introduction about Barcelona. We are a very, very, very compact city. We've got 6 times more compactness than Groningen. Because in the same area, more or less, we've got 1.7 million inhabitants. But of course, we are not isolated. We are in a metropolitan area. And yeah, again, the density is twice the density from Groningen. So you can imagine, no, this 15-minute city. When we refer to walk, it's very easy to fulfill in the Barcelona metropolitan area. This is the Cerdà plan that was approved in 1859. And then since then, the city was joining the old town with the neighboring towns like Gracia, like Sant Andreu, like Sants. But then when Cerdà made the plan, the cars still didn't exist, also not the tramways, only there were horses there. And the idea was to build a city that was not so compact as it is now. But then you know that the cars arrived. But before the cars arrived, the citizens could really walk everywhere. And I like to say that we were citizens, and then during the last century we became pedestrians, no? And then we only had safe walks to walk next to the façades. This is the first metropolitan bicycle map. When I found this map, I was very happy because there's no map like this one for cars at this age, at this period. And you can see the evolution of a Eixample grid in that moment. So that was really a little bit. So the city had expanded a lot more during the 20th century. And this is what we got in most of the cities in the world, especially from the 60s. Because the car is a great invention, and then the car occupied all public space. When I was a child, the car were parking in all the sidewalks even. And I know that in Groningen, you were very pioneer with the first circulation plan, already in 1977. So that was really visionary. And for me, the circulation plan is the main concept of the Superblock, no? Just avoiding the through traffic. So I'm very happy for being here in Groningen, speaking about Superblocks. Well, this is Barcelona from the top, the Eixample grid from the top. You see that the greenery that was supposed to be in the interiors is almost none. And the city was working since the 80s to get back some greenery of this. But there are less than 50 blocks with interiors dedicated to some public space in green. And it's really a long process in economic terms and also in time. So it's not the best way to transform the city. And we like to say that Barcelona is a city of streets because our public space is mainly on the streets. We have just a few parks, Montjuïc and Collserola, they are in the mountain. And then in the city, we just have Ciutadella Park, which is the biggest one, and it's really, really small, no? For 1.7 million inhabitants. We've got streets like this one, with more cars than many highways in Catalonia. in this case, in Aragó, we had 90,000 cars per day, now around 60. So it was decreasing also because we put a bus lane and a bike lane during the COVID, during the pandemic. But what we got when we started this century, this 21st century, I like to talk about externalities of the mobility because they are still not included into the economy. So we usually don't count them. And they have a huge effect on our health and the environment. And these are air pollution, noise, crashes, heat island effect, or a climate emergency, and unequal use of the space, lack of greenery, and finally the sedentary lifestyle. Oh, my watermelon is falling down all the time, and I want to lose it. Of course, when we look at the map with the traffic, and when we relate to these externalities, we see that there's a direct relationship between the car traffic and, for instance, here you see the pollution map. Okay. Also, at the same time, when we look at the accessibility of public transit, we see that the central area of Barcelona has the greatest accessibility in public transit in all Catalonia. And we also see that the walkability, that it's in 20 minutes, what's the distance you can cover with a continuity, it's also very great in this area of the city. So we've got all the conditions, we just need less car traffic to reach a livable city. I was very happy yesterday because we had a workshop in the city council with the colleagues that are working also in this kind of projects, and you've got already a department of livability. So I was really shocked by this because I think this is again something very pioneer, in looking at what's the main goal in our city for our citizens, is improving our quality of life, so improving our livability. This is the vision we had about the city. We need more space for active mobility, also more space for playing, more space for greenery. We always need to give accessibility to everyone by public transit and also by car. It's not, Superblocks don't have any physical barrier. There are no bollards in the streets, in the Superblocks. We are just playing with changing directions to make it more difficult for the car traffic. Going back to the accessibility, to the proximity, in Barcelona here you've got two maps on the markets and the libraries of the city. And if we would do this map, you could see that in all the neighborhoods we've got all the services, maybe not a hospital, maybe not a university, but for the rest of the daily services we are very well covered. So there's no reason to keep the use of the car. And when we look at the commuting distances with the big data, once more, these are the distances in the metropolitan area, not only in the city, but the metropolitan area, which is 6 times Barcelona. We see that more than 50% of the commuting trips are up to 2 kilometers. So this is 25 minutes walking. And around 80, if we include the external commuting, around 80% of the trips are up to 10 kilometers. So this is perfect for cycling distances. I'm cycling when I go to my office 12 kilometers, and this is 45 minutes. So it's perfect distance to cycle, and it's even more competitive than with public transit. Of course, the surveys are telling us that most of commuting trips in Barcelona are on foot, more than 60% in the city. But when we look at the region, it's more than 50% even. So there's a great need of space to walk. Also, when we look at the external trips, but are only 10% of the trips in the commuting, of course, the car use is increasing a lot, but still most of them could use different ways of transportation, like public transit and like cycling. We mostly walk, but in the meantime, most of our public space is dedicated still to cars in the city of Barcelona. And when we look at a normal street in the Champlaguit, this 20 meters wide street, we see that, of course, to the traffic, we never put any obstacle because we don't want them to get crashed. But when we look at the sidewalks, we see that in the sidewalks, in this 35–40% that we've got for the pedestrian, we put everything, any obstacle. And you know that in Barcelona we love terraces, so you can imagine also terraces in this picture. So you see how unequal is the use of the public space. And sometimes we make, this is in Gracia, the sidewalks larger, and then we allow the motorbikes to park there. So this is quite crazy. To finish the introduction, this is the car manufacturers in Spain. No, they were saying, we are not going to accept that the cars are being removed from the public space. And with these kind of statements, it's with the ones we are coping in Spain, in Europe, in the world. No? Because in the end, you know, the car manufacturers are still very powerful. And when we refer to the media, for example, now who is paying the advertisements in media, we realize that mostly they come from the car manufacturers. Okay, but what can we do from the public bodies, from the cities? I think we've got really a lot of power, citizens and public servants, because public space is our business. And with public space, we can really make the main change for our citizens. Of course, it's not possible that we help everyone at home, but with public space, we can really do a lot. Yesterday, we walked a little, well, we cycled a little bit in Groningen. I couldn't see much because of the fog. But I could see really nice places without cars, also because you put some garage underneath, I guess, in these pictures. And here, 700 million euros tunnel. But I was really amazed by this public space. I was only missing benches. Well, we discussed this about this yesterday with your colleagues. No, we need more benches in public space, also because climate change is coming also here, and you know, people are using every time more and more the public space. Okay, let's go to some long-term actions, among them the Superblocks. But first, here we'll talk about all these areas, the Superblocks, but also Glorias, Diagonal, and Meridiana. At the two sides of the screens, you can see the Meridiana. When I was a child, we had that image from the 60s to 90s. We had 12 car lanes, you can count them. And the pedestrians, we used to, well, we had to use these bridges along the whole Meridiana. This Meridiana is next to Glorias. So what's Cerdà, imagine the city center, you can see. And you see on the sidewalks down, there were even no trees. Huh? And then here to the right is the same image. You can try to identify some building that it's still there. And it's the current situation since 2021. Here we've got 2 car lanes, 2 bus lanes and 2 bike lanes, and then the central part for the people. But yeah, we can go from 12 to 2 car lanes. It's possible. But in between, we went also to 8 car lanes. In between, we went to 8, so from 12 to 8, and then in this area from 8 to 4. So 2 car lanes, it's only in the nearest place to Glorias, but in the rest, we kept 4 car lanes, which is still a lot, but if we consider we had 12, then it's a great improvement. Yeah, this is the point where you can see that it's the same place, right? It's unbelievable for me too. Can you imagine what's this? Do you know what's this map about? Anyone that has been in Barcelona? No? Yes? Okay, the tram. Okay, the thing in yellow, it's 3.5 kilometers that were not built yet. I mean, the tramway is will connect 9 municipalities. And it was built in 2004. And since then, because of stupid political reasons, we could go, we could have like a lecture about the stupid political reasons in this case, but they are not connected yet. Now they are like 1.5 kilometers extra. It's built already, and in theory it's coming, the rest, but not for the moment. Well, the Diagonal was like this. It was a huge boulevard on the 2 sides. And then it was open for cars again on the 2 sides, creating 4 extra car lanes. And finally, with the tramway, there was this render, which is a reality already. And in this area, this is a school, a primary school, and it was like that. And now finally, it's like this. Well, the picture, now the trees are growing more, but in that moment, in May, they were like this. So now we've got the best bike lane in Barcelona. So whenever you come to Barcelona, you can use the cycle lane in diagonal, and it's not so bad as the rest of the bike lanes in the city. Of course, we had a lot of supporters from the neighbors, especially people with disabilities. The tramway is the best public transit in accessibility. I know you had a discussion here in Groningen some years ago about the tramway, and I don't know if you need a tramway or not, but in Barcelona, it's the best rated in public, well, in mobility in general, in all the transportation modes. And then the last big project, this is Glorias. This is what Cerdà imagined for the city center, the place that Cerdà pointed as the city center. And when I was a child, I could play in the park. Okay, we had big infrastructure, but we also had a park. And then with the Olympic Games, we had this. I don't know if you can see, like a huge roundabout. Oh, I left. With a park inside that had to be closed because of security reasons. No one was using it, and then, yeah, some things that were not good for the city were happening. But then the neighbors, they went to the city council in 2007, and they agreed with all the political parties this kind of vision. The neighbor said, we don't want this. This thing is disconnecting our neighborhoods, the 4 neighborhoods. Please, we need a park in this area of the city. And then for that reason, it was also necessary to build a tunnel. This one was 200 million euros. I don't know in Groningen, but in Barcelona, when you put money for cars, no one is discussing if it's necessary or not. But when you do it for the bike or for the tramway or for other means, then the debate always comes. And then in 2014, this huge roundabout was being demolished. And we wanted to keep some parts, like in your case here, that you kept in Groningen, but it's gone. It's not there. So this was the park some years ago, and this was the park some months ago. Like, it's totally finished now, so you can come to visit. And finally, let's go to Superblocks. The Superblocks concept is very simple, as I mentioned. It's like a circulation plan. It's just putting some hierarchy in the streets. We define which are the main streets, and then we define what are the green corridors, no? The local streets and the green corridors. And we started this process with the second mobility plan that was defining the streets, the main streets for each transportation system. And the main point of the Superblocks is the bus. The bus lines were defining which were the basic streets, the main streets, the streets where the cars could go through too. So there was this kind of exercise, no, to see what we had and what we wanted to have in each street. You can get the presentation whenever you want. I mean, I see some people taking pictures, but it's not necessary. I will give it to the gemeente. Yeah, but the idea is removing always car space in the main streets, because we give it to the bus lanes and to the bike lanes. In the local streets, because we give it to the pedestrian, but also to the service lane. No, we need place to put our containers. You know, in Barcelona, we've got all the trash in the streets, so we need place for the containers. We need place for the delivery, the last mile delivery, and we need also place for the motorbikes, because we don't want them on the sidewalks. And then finally, the green corridors. And then the concept is very simple. Just let's say, okay, some streets are for the through traffic, and the rest they stay for the other users. And as I mentioned, we don't use bollards. We used in the beginning in Gracia, in one of the old towns, but it didn't. Bollards, they always create problems. And then we basically do create different changes in the directions, so the cars are going away to the peripheric, not to the main streets. Then with this simple action, we can transform an intersection, a 200,000 square meters intersection, into something different. No, in this place, maybe you can park 8, 12 cars, 16 cars. That's it. But then, when you change the rules, you can get this space for the people. And then in 2016, there was the pilot of the Superblock in Poblenou. because of the universities. I mean, it was approved in the mobility plan in 2013, but then 3 years later, the universities pushed the city to test a pilot with their help. We had like 100 of students of the first course in architecture that I think, well, they were very much, I think they had to defend very much the pilot because the city just let the space and they were the ones making the implementation. And this was placed in this area in Poblenou. This is where I grew up and where I was living at this time. So yeah, this happened at that moment, by the way. So the first days, we had just the students making proposals in public space. There were no budget. They didn't have budget, so they had to really imagine find by themselves the paint and these kind of elements that were, of course, not like legal elements for the city. But they created different proposals in the squares. One was for the laser for kids. Another one was for the democracy square, and it was the parliament square. So it was the square where we had public debates about superblocks, but also about other things. And then the students left 2 weeks after, because it was for the mobility week, and then everything was removed because it was not legal, no? It was not coping with the regulations, the local regulations. And then we had plenty of space, but just asphalt. Just like this. And it was very funny to see that the adults, we stayed on the sidewalks because it was like our safe place to be. But the kids really ran to the center of the streets, no, to meet each other. And that was quite a hard moment because then the city decided to keep the pilot, no, and to develop as a superblock because it wasn't the plan and because it was a good idea. But then we had like a few months of nothing happening, no? You remove cars and nothing is happening. And I think this is also very unfair, no? Because when we give the space for the cars, no one is wondering if this space is efficiently used. But when we remove the space, when we remove the cars from the space, then everyone seems that we need to make a really great use of this new public space, no? And in this area, we were just a few residents, 2,000 people in 9 blocks. So it wasn't that easy, no, to show that we were filling the public space. But suddenly, some activities started. The space was available, so then the people around, no, we've got one school of Chinese there, some companies, the neighbors, no, we started organizing different activities, a gym nearby. But of course, we also had a huge resistance. I don't know if you heard about it, but it was really, really a lot of noise. But also the neighbors, we organized ourselves to defend it because we wanted this to stay there. And after 3 months of discussion with the municipality, with the people in favor and with the people against, there was this map of tactical interventions, and then the city started implementing the tactical phase of this superblock. Here are some pictures. And then after 1.5 years, some structural urbanization started also to arrive there, and also the playgrounds, because we were families with many kids in the area, and we didn't have playgrounds. So, and then also the nature started to arrive, even with the tactical interventions. More activities were happening in that time. I stop here because I love picnic tables. For me, is the most democratic urban element in public space, and I think we should put picnic tables everywhere. In this case, we've got teenagers, not just doing homework, but in this case, we've got old people just playing parchís. And then the tactical were also combined with the structural interventions to avoid that if there was a political change in 2019, the tactical interventions were removed because they were like very controversial. And then, the association to defend the superblock was created and many activities were organized. And finally, after 4 years, we got the vegetable garden that the neighbors were asking for. And then now it's under the organization of this association, Collectiu Superilla Poblenou. And then we went from Poblenou to the rest of the city. The second superblock was in Sant Antoni, this area. But then I really like the yellow areas. The neighbors were asking for Superblocks in the participatory budgets, and some of them went through. So it was really nice to see that after some years, no? But you need this period of adaptation and understanding what does this mean, no? And then the Superblocks for the Champla district, it was changed into the Green Corridors strategy, which is more or less the same. I mean, it's the same because it's like the negative and the positive. With the Superblock, you put the focus at the perimeter, and with the Green Corridor, you put the focus at the interior of the Superblock. Okay. And then we had this vision in 2020, just after COVID, about green corridors, creating 184 kilometers of green corridors in the city. Then we were going from this street from Cerdà to this street that we had until now, no? And then to this new kind of green corridor where the people were placed in the middle of the street, no? Not on the sidewalks anymore. New model also for the soil, for the water, for the mobility. The only ones that could go straight were the bikes. And then the cars, again, were obliged to turn. And also a new model of trees, more trees, a third line of trees in these streets. And then we went from this image that we had in COVID. We already made some more space for the people. We went from this image to this image. And if you didn't walk, we've got now 5 kilometers to walk with this new image of Superblocks. Yeah, it's very nice to walk there, so I really welcome you to come. And then also in the intersections, we are working with 4 different squares. We went from this gray situation. I think the color is not very fair, but then we got this situation, okay? And then we got these 4 new squares, which are for people, and where cars can always pass. I mean, it's not, we are not putting any physical barrier, but they just have to adjust their speed. And then, of course, just before the elections, we started having problems with the court, because the people against, or for political reasons, they started going to the court because I don't know in the Netherlands, but in Spain it's like quite frequent lately that they just go to the court. And it was really funny because one of the sentences, one of the conclusions from one of the demands that we got, more than 20, one of them said, you need to remove this part of green corridor in this street because you are not fulfilling the general metropolitan plan of 1976, so 50 years old. Because the complaint was that the accessibility meaning of this metropolitan plan was not being fulfilled with the new situation. But of course we said there's accessibility, there's even more accessibility for the rest of means of transportation and also for the car, no? But still one of the judges said, this is not like that. But then the people that put the demand against the city, they said, no, we don't want it to be removed. So that was also, but that was after the elections. So you see, it's always a political bullshit, at least in Spain. Okay, and then finally, let's talk about short-term actions, because we started this program about protecting the schools that I really love. And it's based on tactical actions, which I really love too. And in this term, from 1923, we were working in 200 schools out of 600, from kindergarten to secondary schools. And well, we were doing this kind of actions. It's all with tactical. We spent an average of 70,000 euros per each school. And yeah, I think the result was that the car was filling a guest. No, that was what we wanted. And then we improved in safety, in noise. The quality is not so much because the air quality is not so much focused, no, in some specific point. But here you can see. And once more, it was about taking a space from the car, once more. You see. And what I love of this program, it's that it's not only about children and families, but you take this space, this public space remained for everyone. So in the end, it's again more benches in the city, that especially the elderly, they use it a lot. okay, these are the numbers of these actions that were very cheap and very cost effective. But once more, this happened again February 2023, 3 months before the elections. These white men, all white, all men, they were defending the car parking instead of actions for kids, but well. So they could really stop some of the actions in the last months, and finally now they are implemented, but it was a tricky thing. And then community engagement. All these transformations, they are not possible if we don't involve the citizens, and if the citizens don't feel part of this, because in the end we are transforming their streets where they are doing their daily life, so we need to count on them. In Barcelona, since 1998, we've got the mobility agreement or the mobility pact with all the stakeholders in the city that have something to do with mobility. But especially for Superblocks, we had a really great participatory process with more than 2 years for each implementation. No? Speaking to everyone, special meetings with the retailers, special meetings with the last mile delivery, with the schools, with everyone. Well, here there are the phases, and we've got always the digital platform, the CDIM, with all the processes also going on. But of course, we also need to meet the people in person, and also to work with specific groups like female, no? Like the gender vision is very important in the city of Barcelona. And then, for example, this is in the Superblock of Poblenou, you see that the vegetable garden, it's placed at a height where the people from the wheelchair can also work. And also with the people with vision disabilities, with the blind people, we also had specific maquetas to show where the podotactile pavement was placed in the Superblocks, because they always want to know if the pavement is at the same level, no? With the unique platform. They want to know if the place where they walk, the traffic could run. So that was also very important. And also with the people on wheelchairs, checking if it was smooth enough for them, because we wanted to take tails from the cobblestones from the 50s that we had under the asphalt. So we make them very, very smooth, but it wasn't enough smooth, so we made them even more smooth. And of course, the young ones, we are always forgetting them in cities. I don't know what you think about it, but teenagers and the young ones are the ones that are more difficult to put in place. So we also need to create places for them. Yeah, there were many, many participatory processes. And of course, also informing to the drivers when these implementations take place, to tell them how are the rules now in the next weeks. Also, Meridiana, Glorias, all these big transformations in city, they have their own participatory process. And of course, only a few people will participate. But you need to give this space, and you need to get them on board, because they will be your allies also during the process, because most of the people, they will react only when they see the action going on. But you need this space to collaborate previously with everyone that is willing to. The co-creation also with the Protecting Schools project was very important with the school communities. And also some with the neurodiverse people is also very important to take them into account when you want to become a playable city for everyone. In Barcelona, we've got the Bicibus movement. You know, in the Netherlands, it's not necessary because you already have the good conditions to get to school in a safe way. But the communities in the schools are really, really important to really help you to transform the city. In this case, we've got the Scholar Rebellion, and they were really pushing for a better place to live for our kids. There are many fights also to push for the bicycle in Barcelona and in Catalonia, and we need to be in touch with these fighters from the city council, because we need them to, on board. Here I was asked by Michael Colville for the serial lifestyle city. I was saying, well, there are children playing in the streets. Who can be against this, no? But yeah, some people they do. Well, a few results. Did we get less car traffic in the last years? Yes, we got at least less motorization in the city of Barcelona. Less than 300 people per 1,000 inhabitants own a car in the city. And this was decreasing in the last years. And we got almost 30% of less on-the-street car parking, which maybe sounds a lot, but we already had a few. I mean, parking on the street is a privilege, so why to keep it, no? This was the map of the on the streets regulated parking, and this is right now. So it's like it really grows in the last period, because the neighbors were asking to regulate the parking, because they are the ones that can park more than the visitors. And yeah, finally, 2 years ago, the city of Barcelona were passing the legal regulations from the air quality, the European ones. But you know, we've got a new directive coming in by 2030. And then when we look at the new directive limits with NO2 and particle matters, we see that only a few streets next to Collserola Mountain, the blue ones that you don't see, I mean, the yellow and the green, they are not following the European new standards. So we need to work harder. That's the conclusion. No? This is not enough. So change acceptance, is this a matter of time? I think human beings, we are in general against all the changes, especially when we feel them imposed. And with the Superblocks, for example, it was showing that we need at least 6 months to understand what's the change meaning and if we need to make some changes on that. But people need time to accept the new situation. Our mayor Colau came 2 years later to the Superblock, and then some people came to the Superblock in Poblenou, and some people came to her to say, I was against the Superblock, but now I'm coming here every day with my kids, for example, and that's for real. I mean, this is happening. What else? How much time and money have we got to change our cities? Because tactical measures, they cost us like between 50, 80 euros per square meter, while structural measures, they cost us from 500 euros per square meter. No? So it's, yeah, you should calculate how much do we need to transform the whole Groningen. Also, the tactical implies temporary. I don't know. Is tactical of good enough quality for our public space? Also, of course, the car is seen as a fundamental right, and this is creating big traumas with all these changes. And of course, also political and mediatic war. So be ready when you are when you want to change the rules in your streets. Public space means conflict, but we need this clear leadership together with the citizens to really make the change. Well, I want to wish the best wishes for Groningen and for the next years. That I hope there will be also very interesting projects coming to become a more livable city, even more more livable city. And that was it for me. Bedankt. Dank u wel.
Thank you so much, Sílvia, for this very inspiring presentation. You started your presentation with saying, I am a neighbor and an activist. How important is being familiar to a neighborhood and being activistic to change something for actually achieving this change in public space?
Well, as I mentioned, neighbors are the ones that will enjoy the changes that we implement in public space. So I think we really need to be in touch with them, to work closely. And if you don't have neighbors associations, then to work directly with the school communities, with the retailers, no, with the bakeries, with everyone that is doing some use of the public space, because it's really important to get them involved, because they are the users, no? And we have to include the user experience also in the transformation of our cities.
Yeah, and also what you said about children. it seems like you ended also with change is difficult for us as human beings, and children almost seem not to know the rules yet. So when the street is closed, they are just walking everywhere. Do you think we should consult children in every public project we should do?
Yes, of course. Once with the Superblocks project, we asked the children what they wanted, and of course they wanted Tyrolines, I don't know, say the Tirolinas, no, you don't understand what I mean. What's the name? Yeah?
Slides.
Yeah, yeah, to connect the different cities, no? Like, of course, this is not possible, but it's, yeah, I think the kids can really help us to open our minds, because we are, no, it's like the car culture, no? We, probably all of us in this room grew up in the city when it was full of cars, maybe not in Groningen because of the circulation plan in 77, no? But for us, the normal situation is that the car is taking most of public space. So we don't ask ourselves if this is good or bad. This is just the way it was. And then with the kids, I think they can really help us to understand that it doesn't have to be like this. So they can really help to make this click, no? that we need.
Yeah, and in Dutch we have a saying, jong geleerd, oud gedaan. So when you're young and this is what you see that this should be, maybe that you will also take that in the rest of your life.
Yeah, totally.
Well, you addressed the importance of participation and also reaching everyone. Could you reflect a little bit more on how to engage people, because we often face a lot of like a big silent group who is not participating. How should we deal with that?
The silent group will remain. I mean, most of the people, they will not participate because they don't have the time, or they don't have the, I don't know, the interest, no? Or they don't understand how this transformation will affect them, no, in their daily lives. And I think it's okay. I mean, most of the people will react when they see the public works happening in the street at the door of where they live. But we really need to give the option to the rest, no, of stakeholders that they are willing to participate, or the rest that have special conditions, no, special disabilities, special situations. For example, in the along these corridors in Barcelona, we agreed with the last mile delivery that they could only park in the corridors from 9:30 till 4. So the school entrances and exits are not affected by this. So in the end, I think there's always a good solution if we listen to all the parts. But of course, it's not the moment to decide what to do, but we can decide how. How do we get there, no? Of course, I mean, the political will and the technical will needs to be clear, but then how to reach it, then it should be open, because also in the participatory processes, people need to feel that they can really bring something new to improve the project. So it's also very important that the project is open enough, no? It's not, it shouldn't be like very clear what we want to do. What we want to do, yes, but how do we get there should be open for everyone.
Yeah, so having a certain direction where we're all going to, but maybe there are different ways in how we can reach that. And you mentioned the use of pilots, you mentioned the use of like tactical interventions. Like structural interventions are very expensive. What is so beneficial of the use of tactical urbanism or the use of pilots? Why is that so important?
Well, with the use of pilots and the tactical interventions, most of the externalities that I mentioned, they can be solved. I mean, if you really make a change in the through traffic, you reduce car pollution, you reduce noise, you reduce heat island effect. Well, heat island effect depends. You should remove also asphalt, of course, and you can really make the change in the uses in the way we use this public space. Okay. It's true that with the greenery, it's always challenging, because the greenery, when we put them in pots, no? When we put trees in pots, it's not the best way to grow. But it can really help to understand what's the change that we want to implement in the cities. And we, from the technical perspective, when I was a deputy to the chief architect office, and we were like pushing to combine both ways of transforming the cities. Because maybe for the squares, we needed more structural intervention because it's a place where we can create more trees and more staying area. But then for the rest of the streets, we could use tactical interventions. And when the tactical is well maintained, the tactical can, in Poblenou, it's now 9 years there. In Sant Antoni, it's 7 years there. So, yeah, how long is temporary? That's also one of my questions, no? I think we need to use both strategies at the same time because of the emergency, no, that we need in climate emergency, but also in pollution, noise, crashes, etc.
And do you see also maybe a next round of resistance when things go from tactical to structural? Or is that people are just, oh, now we get used to the fact that we know what is coming, so we have less resistance, or do you still see resistance as well?
No, in fact, the easy part of the structural is that the public works take so long that everyone is happy when you are done. No, really, I mean, that's, again, really unfair. Because with the tactical, you can make the change in one night or in one weekend. That's what happened in Poblenou Superblock. Then people think, well, if you do it in one weekend, just do it again and then go back to the previous situation. With the structural, there's no way back, no? So I think this is also the unfair part of structural versus tactical, no? It's very simple, but I think, no? Do you agree with me? I mean, it's, yeah. I mean, everyone is happy when the public works are finished when it's just structural.
Yeah. I'm also looking at the audience. Are there any burning questions from the audience which we can answer here? No questions. I have many, but here in the front.
Does it work? Yeah, it does. I was wondering, are there any studies done about, how do you say it? Like any. Dutch. Like, of course, you have to have eyes on the streets. That's one of the quotes of Jane Jacobs as well. And in Groningen, we, for example, have a park which is not that safe at all because there's no eyes on the park, so to say. I was wondering, how is this now with the new parks in the middle? Is it perceived safer, and is there studies done about this?
Well, one of the arguments against the superblocks, it was that because there were less cars, then the sense of security or insecurity was increasing, no? But it was really the other way around because the lack of cars brought more people in the streets and brought also more community. No, the people got to know each other. And then suddenly, I remember in the book of Women in Cities that Melissa Brunlet and Chris, they are just presenting these days in the Netherlands, I think in November, in 19th November. I said in this interview that my daughter was 11 in that moment, and suddenly there was a social surveillance, I know how to say. I got to know new friends, no, from the Superblock because we didn't have a community life before the Superblock. And then my friends there, my new friends, were saying, I saw your daughter there or whatever. I mean, there was suddenly more social control happening. And it was also that we got to know the neighbors living around. So if something was happening, we could just call somebody, no? So Carla, I mean, not really the security feeling. It was increasing, not decreasing. It was the other way around, totally.
Thanks, Sílvia, for your presentation. I have a question about the maintenance. Could you elaborate a little bit more on how the maintenance of these areas are organized, financed, and if there's any citizen participation on maintenance?
Yeah, sure. That's a great topic, especially with the tactical interventions. The city didn't foresee, no? I was talking with you today about this. The tactical way of transforming the city was not something the city was used to. So we had to arrange some new team, no, some new budget also to keep the maintenance. In theory, it's kept by the city. It's true that with the Protecting Our Schools program, we invited the schools to participate, but the schools in the summertime, they close from June to September. So the city also had to look after that or plant new elements after the summer. And it was quite controversial in the last years because the new government, they said that it was more expensive to maintain the Superblocks than a normal street. Of course, it's more expensive to maintain the greenery than the asphalt. No, I mean that's something quite easy to understand. But then they decided to stop maintaining the small, I don't know the English word, but parterres, where you put the trees, but the bushes, no? It was like the bushes, it's very expensive, and we just stopped maintaining them. And then the neighbors, once more, organized themselves to maintain themselves, because that was also quite unfair, no? Like, because they considered it was something from the past, no? From another political party, and they decided not to maintain it. Yeah, but you need to foresee also how the maintenance will be. And this is something very important in cities, because many politicians don't see the use in spending money in maintenance, no? Because what's brand new, you know, it's the investment, it's not the picture, it's on the investment and not on the maintenance. But I think it's really, really important also to keep this transformation alive and to show that it's possible. Yeah.
Yeah, so we should almost think differently about what we're going to do in our streets. Having a different public street means also a different maintaining, a different way of rules, and a different point of view at the streets.
In the end, it's innovation, but public bodies, I don't know in the Netherlands, but in Spain we are quite hard in getting this innovation in all the public procurement and so on. So yeah, you need to think of all the stages. It's quite complex, but it's innovation in the end.
Hello, I'm Helma Krekels. I'm from the same department as
Annegeert.
Yeah, sorry. I was wondering, I believe that urgency is something you really need for a big change. And when I think about Spain, I think about flooding. A lot of happened last year, the heat. Does it help this big task, this big goal, when something happened like this, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean, and I really had this hope with COVID, because COVID was really like a big issue for everyone. And it was like, yeah, we need to push more for active mobility and for livable cities, proximity cities. But I think, well, I don't know how it's in the Netherlands, but in Spain it's like COVID really didn't affect us so much. In Valencia, for instance, with the DANA last year, they are now looking at how to become more resilient, and they are now really pushing for to improve the active mobility networks in the metropolitan scale, because they realized that bikes were the only vehicles that could access many times during the first weeks. And also when they had bike lanes, they were the ones that were used by the ambulances also to access, or the emergency services to access the area. So I hope in this case specifically, I think active mobility networks need to expand much more, because, well, they were existing before, but they were disconnected by highways mainly, I keep my hope, but looking at the COVID experience, we'll see.
Someone in the back is waiting already for a very long time.
Daar komt hij hoor.
Oh.
Over here. Yeah, I was wondering, thank you for your talk. This whole idea of claiming parts of the city and giving it back to the people, who instigated this idea? Was this a grassroots movement, or were people who came from an alternative scene who started working for the municipality and then implemented these plans? And the Like the first intersection that got claimed, was that a legal or an illegal action?
Yeah. The Barcelona has a long tradition in improving public space since the democratic governments, no, since the 80s. And I think this is very visible, and that's very visible in all the neighborhoods in the city, no, and in the metropolitan area also, no. You can really walk nicely in most of the neighborhoods in Barcelona. So most of the public space dedicated to cars had already changed, no, progressively, like this in this case, no. We had 12 car lanes, and then in the 90s we went to 8 car lanes. Then in the 20s we go to 2 car lanes, no. So this is a quite progressive change. But it's true that the second mobility plan was the one implementing the Superblocks concept, and it was led by Salvador Rueda. Salvador Rueda is an ecology, a sociologist, and since the 80s he's working for the city, thinking how to improve the livability in the city. His first approach to the concept of Superblock was because of noise. The noise problem is also very high in Barcelona, where the traffic is high. And then finally, from when he created the Urban Ecology Agency, and then they put the Superblocks as a way of transforming the city in a systematic way, not just isolated urban projects. No, that was what was happening. Of course, also the Olympic Games, no, in '92, I think were a very important moment, because it was when the ring road was built around the city. But in that moment, we got even more capacity for cars, because we got the ring road and then all the streets in Eixample. And then we were having, I didn't mention, but we had more traffic crossing the city center than using the ring roads until a few years ago, So, and of course, also the neighbors associations in Spain and in Barcelona, they are very traditionally to fight to improve the quality of public space, to improve the public transit. So I think that the grassroots have a lot to do, because they were always asking for better quality of public space. But the City Council of Barcelona has a long tradition also in this kind of improvements. So I think it all came together with the second mobility plan. But it was very important, in my opinion, the universities pushing for that. Like really, because we were talking, then I was a consultant the year 2013, 14, 15. I was a consultant for the city about Superblocks, and we were discussing how to implement the actions, no? But we didn't go one step further. And I think the universities were really, really important. So I really invite you to use your University of Groningen, which you've got like thousands of students around. So you should use them, because they are not children, but they are still younger than we are. So, yeah.
So change needs to come from different directions, and it cannot only come from one push, but there need to be some triggers, and there need to be different directions. What kind of advice would you give to citizens of Groningen if they want to reclaim their space for people?
Well, I would really recommend you to go to your politicians and to the people in your city to say what you wish for your streets, because they really need to listen to you. And when they have your support, you will be imparable, unbeatable.
Thank you so much, Sílvia. A big hand for Sílvia.
Thank you.